let's jump to to joy in terms of how that can be an expression as well, because I want to also be able to sort of generalize this a little bit. But but tell us about how joy as a tool to respond to injustice works.
So this was the best and hardest chapter for me to write. It's the last chapter. I really see joy as a weapon. I see joy as a bomb. I see joy as so many different things. And really sort of like the pinnacle of the Black experience is actually not one of trauma and violence, but one of joy and humor. And I sort of encapsulate that in the Alabama brawl. When we think about August of 2023, when these Black dock worker was attacked, and all of a sudden all these Black people came to his response on this dock in Alabama, and people are swimming to the dock, a 16-year-old swimming to the dock, and you've got a man swinging a folding chair. And what gave me so much joy in that moment is not just to see Black people defending another Black person, absolutely yes, but it was the memes and the gifts and the humor and the reenactment and the joy that came, like almost the celebration and mockery of whiteness in that moment, where it was like poking fun at white supremacy to sort of rob it of its legitimacy. Like that to me was everything. I saw people with merch. They had like folding chair earrings and they had t-shirts, and I was like, Black people, only Black people, we will make fun of something. We will poke fun. We will take something that could be, really violent, like a white woman calling the police on Black people barbecuing, and we will make it a hashtag or a punchline. We'll call you Barbecue Becky, and we'll make jokes about that. And I think there are just ways in which Black people are always trying to sort of laugh to keep from crying, and sort of using joy to fortify them and to protect them during really hard and difficult times. I think about the joy that kind of came from the pandemic. I mean, you think about people dying and sickness all around you. And again, the gifts and the memes and sort of the mockery and humor that came from that moment, I'll never forget that. And it just is a message to me that even when we see Black people marching in the streets and sort of chanting, "I can't breathe," and then, 2 minutes later, somebody will break out into the electric slide and Frankie Beverly will start to play. And then all of a sudden it's like a block party. And you're like, wait, how did we go from this to this? Because Black people need joy. We need joy in order to survive. It is what affirms our humanity. And so I wanted to end with that, because if we have nothing else, we have each other. And when we have each other, there is always joy and laughter to be found.
I mean, this is obviously, people understand it's a history of Black resistance and the various forms that it takes. And on some level meant to be prescriptive in terms of a resource for future resistance. What about, like, we're in an era where the need for resistance could be a little bit wider than within the context of the Black community and its allies. I mean, we'll find out with immigrants, right? But also,
trans people, women, you name it.
But also, people who want, just broadly speaking, maintain some semblance of at least the structure of a democracy, as opposed to an oligarchy. What lessons can be taken here that are more, I guess, that can be extrapolated, that aren't necessarily a function of the history of oppression of Black people in the context of this country, or endemic to cultural responses to this oppression? Like, what are there lessons that you see that can be taken to a broader audience?
Absolutely.
Or I should say a broader, not audience per se, but broader, I guess, use.
Yes, populace, sure. I mean, absolutely. I didn't just write this book for Black people, even though I tell people all the time that this is my sort of love letter to the Black community. refusal is collective and refusal is global. And you see that all over the world. You are seeing people refuse tyranny, refuse oligarchy, refuse, these really oppressive systems. And I think now more than anything, we need deep and wide coalitions. We need people coming together to push back, to refuse against the power structures that be, because we're all getting our clock clean. We're all paying $12 for eggs. We are all having to navigate healthcare in a very unjust system. And so I want people to refuse, and I want people to sort of kind of take a letter from Gen Z. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned from my students, it's that binaries do not serve us well. The idea that it's right, it's wrong, it's good, it's bad, it's black, it's white, it's this, it's that, it's violence or it's nonviolence. I think we have an array of tools at our disposal that we can get creative, that we need everyone. We need the engineer and the poet. We need the graffiti artist and the medical doctor. We need the teacher and the politician. This is an all hands on deck moment. When we refuse, we have to stand up against all of these power structures. Now, I make it plain in the book. Like, if you want a 3-point plan, if you want a formula, that is not this book.
Right, no.
if you want me to solve racism by 2035, that's not going to happen. But I think if you want to talk about what's not working, we should talk about that and discard that. And we should start to get really creative about what could work. What possibilities do we have out there? How can we gather all of our efforts and talents and abilities and chip away at this problem? We're not going to swallow the ocean. I can't do that, but I can do what I do best, which is write books and teach history and speak about this. And others will find their own talents and abilities to partner with others and to keep that work going.
It seems to me that one of the biggest challenges, and again, yes, I don't know if anybody has a solution at this moment of any of this, but how do these sort of methodologies or perspectives of resistance get translated when you're talking about populations that have not been defined by their fate? So in other words, solidarity across amongst Black people, it was sort of defined by the oppressor on some level. You guys are slaves, we're all slaves, or we're second-class citizens, or we're being discriminated against. If you say, a poet or a plumber, if we all do poetry together, we have at least some comment. Like what becomes the, how do we create around what? That solidarity.
The coalescing, you mean the coalescing factor. Yeah. I think, and maybe
particularly when there's a significant percentage of people who can just say I can pass.
Yeah.
I can pay, whatever that translates into.
Listen, I think
my taxes are being cut. So
I think there are a lot of people, and that's why Trump is in office, that voted not just in their interests in terms of white supremacy, but in terms of the aspirations that whiteness provides. And I think that, you will find people all the time that are not white, but aspirationally seek to be, or in close proximity to that kind of power structure, and that will sell out again and again to get some sort of power or to gain some sort of protection. But I think at the end of the day, and maybe this is the optimist in me, maybe I'm wearing rose-colored glasses, but I think we all want healthy bodies. We all want healthy communities. We all want to be safe. We all want to make a decent living. We all want to be able to afford the homes that we live in. We all want to be able to have access to education. We all want to be able to live our lives. Trans people want to be able to live their lives safely without harm. Most people who are undocumented workers, they want to be able to live their lives. They want to be able to provide for their families. And I don't think what people want is sort of so far-fetched. Now, is everyone going to be a millionaire? No. Should everyone be a millionaire? No. But should everyone have access to housing and to healthcare and to education and to job opportunities and to be represented when they turn on the TV and when they see, art performed for them. I think those things matter. I actually think more people want that than not. And I think that we have a lot more in common than we think. Whiteness and white supremacy is a problem, but so is capitalism. And capitalism is cleaning a lot of our clocks. So is patriarchy. Patriarchy is cleaning a lot of our clocks. And I think that when we galvanize against those power structures, when it's not just about whiteness, when it's also about wealth, and I mean uncontrollable, unsustainable kinds of wealth, when it's also about, marginalizing a whole half of the population, those are things that have to be tackled. And I do think that there's more solidarity than there is opposition. And I tell people all the time, if this is encouraging to them, because I studied the abolitionists, my first book was on the abolitionist movement. The abolitionists were only 1% of the population. 1%. Like, they were not all of the North. They were a small sector. And I think all you need is a small group of committed people willing to make sacrifice, willing to find consensus, willing to find solidarity, and you can change the world over. The abolitionists did it. And I don't think we necessarily need, everyone to be in agreement in order to do this work. We need committed people. We need people willing to make sacrifice and people willing to work together.
Kellie Carter Jackson, Associate Professor of Africana Studies at Wellesley College, author. The book is We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance. We'll put a link to that at majority.fm. Thanks so much for your time today. Really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.